Welcome to Miss Retro Reads. We continue with The Head Girl of the Chalet School, Chapter 18, Joey Returns. Cornelia fully intended to carry out her great scheme as soon as possible, but various events occurred, which it made impossible. To begin with, she was watched carefully by Matron and the prefects. Matron's opinion of the young lady was that she was a little demon, and goodness knew what she would do if left alone. The prefect's impression was that there was more in her than met the eye. Grizel, who had herself been a nuisance in the early days of the school, was aware that the American child was quite likely to break out sooner or later, so warned the others to be careful. Time was fully planned out at the school, and though the girls had a certain amount of freedom, there was also a good deal of supervision, more so than in any English boarding school. Besides, in the summer term, there was always more to do, and the girls devoted a great deal of their time to games. These were compulsory and had to be played in the evenings, as the afternoons in the summer were very hot as a rule. Work began at 8:30 and went on till 1:45. This included preparation periods. After mealtime, there was an hour of rest, and then they went to their cubicles to lay down. After that, they had singing, sewing, handiwork, or music lessons, and then came a coffee break, and after that, tennis or cricket. Another meal at 7. When it was over, they were free till bedtime. Work was considerably lightened, too, so that the short preparation period might be sufficient, and all practice had to be done before mealtime, which was 7:45. Under these circumstances, Cornelia found that it was not going to be easy to get away. This upset her so badly that she became a perfect nuisance in lessons, fidgeting, not attending, and answering the mistresses with so much impertinence when called to order that it was scarcely surprising that she found herself in the black books of the entire staff. Finally, she came into a violent collision with Miss Maynard, and she was marched off to bed, the only punishment that she appeared to mind, and there left to come to her senses. It would have been good opportunity for slipping off if Matron had not been working in the room across the passage, and there could be no question of her climbing down from the balcony, for the lower fourth form room was immediately beneath the dormitory, and they would have seen her. Since getting away was out of the question, the young lady proceeded to revenge herself for her punishment by getting the sponges of the 7 other people who slept in the same dormitory, soaking them thoroughly, and placing them in the exact centers of their own beds. Then she retired to her own and lay looking again, for it was becoming a characteristic pose with her, as if butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. Her suspicions aroused by the silence in the yellow dormitory the last time Cornelia had been sent to bed, she had sung all the songs she knew at the top of her voice. Matron came in to see if all was all right. So far as she could judge, there was nothing wrong, except Cornelia's expression. That was too good to be true. Matron looked round the room sharply. Then her eye was caught by a wet spot on Paula von Rothenfell's bed. She made a dive, threw back the clothes, and displayed a nicely soaked bed. 5 minutes later, all the beds had been taken to pieces, and there were the wet sponges. They had been there for half an hour, so the beds were thoroughly damp. Just as the moment the bell rang for break, the matron, popping her head out of the window, called to Margia Stevens to send Mademoiselle to her, and at once, she concluded. Then she turned back to where Cornelia was laying. "We'll see what Mademoiselle has to say to this, miss. Of all the outrageous things to do, you deserve a good sound whipping." And this is exactly what Mademoiselle thought when she surveyed the beds. A long lecture, the confiscation of her pocket money for 3 weeks, gating to grounds, and 5 French fables to be learned and repeated to the irate head of the school were among her punishment. But what she felt far more was Matron's decree that she should take all the beds and the bedding, put everything outside in the garden to dry, and when it was ready, remake all the beds. The mattresses were to be hung over the balcony, the clothes to be carried downstairs and spread out in the playing field. Finally, the mattresses were to be put into fresh covers, and Cornelia was to do it. It took her all day, and Matron saw to it that she had nothing but dry bread and milk till it was done. What made this one of the sharpest parts of her punishment was the fact that Herr Marini came up from Innsbruck for a short visit and brought with him a big basket of his wife's cake for them all. Sitting on the floor of the dormitory, stitching at one of the hated covers, Cornelia shed bitter tears as she heard the others making merry over the cakes which they had with their coffee out of doors, as they usually did when the day was hot. She heard the Robins' exclamation of, "Me, I love Herr Marini," followed by Maria's, "Mamma has made these cakes even better than usual," and she looked with loathing at the plate of dry bread and the big cup of milk which Louise had brought up for her. Her first idea was to go on a hunger strike and refuse to eat what they had given her. But matron's contemptuous, "Well, it won't hurt you to fast for once," put an end to that. With tears dripping salty down to her face, she swallowed the hated meal, and then turned again to her task. She would have rebelled against it if she had dared, but she knew that if she did, matron would keep her word, which was that she would have no playtime until it was done, and that she should also do the other beds, which would be changed at the week-end. So she kept on, and by 7 o'clock she put in the last stitch, and that part of her punishment was over. Miss Durant came for her then, and made her wash her face and hands, brush her hair, and come for a walk along the lakeside. "You have had no exercise today," she said quietly, "and that will not do. Get your hat. The sun is still hot." Cornelia did as she was told in sulky silence, but as Miss Durant had no idea of talking to her, her silence fell rather flat. She was out for an hour, and then she was brought back and sent to bed in the sick room, which was the only one of the rooms to be without a balcony, so that there was no possible escape from it, for it opened into matron's room, and that lady was popularly reported to sleep with one ear open. Joey came back the next day, and was promptly assailed for several people, all wanting to know how Madame was, what the baby was like, and when they were going to see them both. She was willing to chatter now, but she still had that curiously older air. "Madge is splendid," she said, "and the baby's a dear. He's got the duckiest little hands and feet you ever saw, and heaps of soft black hair." "What are they going to call him?" asked Grizel. "David, after my father," said Joe, "and James too, of course." "David James Russell," said Simone, trying it over to see how it sounded. "I like it very much, Joey." "Oh, so do I," put in Evandine eagerly. "What will they call him for short?" "David, of course. Madge objects to Dave, which was what Dr. Maynard suggested. All the same," added the baby's aunt with a chuckle, "I bet he'll be Davy before very long." "But that is a pretty name, too," said Robin, who had been listening. "Joey, when are Grizel and I to see him? I do so want to see a very little baby." "The week after next," said Joe. "You and Grizel are to go up for the weekend, and I'm going for Sunday." "But why not for the whole time with us?" objected Grizel. "Madge says it would be unfair. I've just had a week with her, and she thinks I ought not to have any more than just a day till half term now." "That's like Madam," said Mary. "She is the fairest person I've ever met, I think." "We've some news for you. Guess what?" chimed in Margia. "Yes, make her guess," laughed Rosalie. "Come along, Joe." Joe thought hard, screwing up her mouth and frowning deeply the while. "Someone else is engaged?" she hazarded. No, not that." "And who is there, anyway?" "Well, Bet might." "At 17 and a half? Talk sense, Joey." "There's Bernhilda." "No, Bernhilda is not betrothed yet," said Friedel, nodding her head as if she could tell secrets if she only would. Joe was on her in a flash. "Do you mean she's going to? Who to?" But Frida only shook her head, and refused to state in spite of all her eager entreaties. "Well, they've put the trains on early, as it's such glorious weather. I don't think much of your guessing capacities," said Grizel scornfully. "The trains were put on Monday, but it won't make a lot of difference to us just now." "Someone's coming to see us, then." "Ah, now you're getting it." "Yes, guess who?" "Elisaveta?" asked Joe excitedly, her mind going to this dear friend of hers. Elisaveta may be coming, but no one has told us of that, said Marie von Ecknew. No, it's Wanda and Friedel. Marie, you little horror, cried Rosalie. You shouldn't have told. Oh, well, I was going to say them next, said Jo easily. How wonderful! When are they coming, Marie? On Friday. Tante Sophie is coming with them, and Wanda is to stay here, but Friedel is to go to Kronprinz Karl. They are coming for 3 days, while Tante Sophie visits her cousins in Innsbruck, and then they will go back with her. Gorgeous! It will be nice to have Wanda again. Perhaps Gisela and Bernhilda could come too, and Bet as well. Then it would be almost like old times again. What do you think, Grizel? Let's go and ask Mademoiselle. It's a splendid idea, Jo. If only Juliet could come, we should all be here at once, for Stephanie would come too, and as so many of us are leaving this term, I don't suppose we'll get another opportunity to be all together again. They trooped off to the flower garden, where the staff were taking their ease in deck chairs, and Jo proffered her request. I am glad you like the idea, said Mademoiselle, smiling. I have already written to our dear girls, and they are all coming, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday we will make a little party. Jo swung off her hat and waved it above her head. 3 cheers for Mademoiselle, she cried. Come along, all of you. They cheered with vim and vigor, and then, seeing that the staff probably wanted their free time to themselves, Grizel herded the noisy group away, and they went discussing the unexpected holiday in all its aspects. It won't be quite like old times, though, said Grizel with a sigh to Jo, when they were alone a little later on. Madame will not be with us. Jo followed the direction of her gaze towards the sun-alp and nodded. No, but you can tell her all about it when you go up for the weekend. Grizel looked at her curiously. Jo, don't you mind our going with you? Jo shook her head sturdily. Of course I don't. I've had a week with her, or 5 days anyway. Of course, I haven't seen much of her, but I've been there anyway, and I shall see lots of her later on. And I shan't, sighed Grizel. I'm dreading Florence, Joey. I feel as if I should never come back once I get there. That's rot, said Jo. You might as well say that when I go to Belsornia to be with Elisaveta, I shall never come back. But I jolly well shall. I'll always come in holidays, and so must you. It's different for you, Jo. You're sisters, and I'm only a friend. Jo's black eyes grew soft. You've been a good friend, Grizel. We'll want you, and you must come. Think of all we've done together. Grizel turned away once more and looked up at the beautiful mountain on the other side of the lake. We've been in some tight places, you and I, pursued Jo. That makes us more than just ordinary friends, Griselda, my lamb. I'm glad you look on it like that. Jo, I'll come if I can. I don't often yarn, but you know how much I owe Madame and the Chalet school. It's been home to me these last 4 years. It can be home to you still, said Jo. There's Evandine on the yell for us. What can she want now? Evandine came racing over the grass to them, shrieking their names as she came. Grizel, Joey, come on and play tennis. Rosalie's bagged the end court and we're waiting. The two ran, glad on the whole for this interruption. Neither of them was in the habit of discussing her feelings, and both felt a little awkward about it, now that it was all over. A fast set of tennis was just the thing they wanted. It was also the thing they got. Rosalie was a steady player, and Evandine was brilliant on occasion with a service which could be untakeable at times. Grizel was promised to be more than average, and Jo played a good average game, with odd flashes of inspiration and an uncanny gift for placing her balls, which made her a difficult opponent when she used it, as she did this evening. The first finished, leaving Rosalie and Evandine as the victors with a score of 9-7 to their credit. Every point had been hotly contested, and the winners had only just got their 2 games. We're jolly good, aren't we? Said Jo most immodestly. as they walked together to the games shed to put away the balls. "That last service of yours was a brute. I couldn't do a thing with it." "No one ever called you conceited, did they?" teased Rosalie. Joe laughed. "I didn't mean it quite like that. But you must own that we aren't bad for schoolgirls, anyhow." "And Madame Joey?" said Gisela, when she could get in a word edgewise. "Maria told us when she wrote. How is she?" "Very well," said Joe. "Just wait till you see David. Imagine it, Gisela. I have 2 nephews and 2 nieces. Isn't it priceless?" Gisela looked at her with a smile. "It must be very pleasant. I'm glad for you, Joey." A wild shriek from Marie at this moment started all of them. "Marie, what has happened?" demanded Grizel. "Anything stung you?" "No, but oh, Grizel, just think! Kurt, my eldest brother, is betrothed." "What? Who to?" exclaimed Joe, with a great lack of grammar. Grizel's eyes fell on Brunhilde's fair face, rosy with blushes. "Why, it's Brunhilde!" she cried. "Bernie, you?" gasped Joe. "I say, how splendid!" Poor, shy Brunhilde scarcely knew which way to look, as they all crowded round her, asking questions and discussing the latest excitement at the top of their voices. "So that's what you were driving at the other night, Frida," said Margia, when they had calmed down a little. "I say, aren't we growing up? 3 of us engaged, and 2 going to be married soon. When are you going to do anything like that, Bet?" Bet laughed and shook her pretty head. "You mustn't wait, Margia." The arrival of the staff made fresh pandemonium, for everyone wanted to tell them the news. When they understood it, they wished Brunhilde every happiness, and she was the center of attraction till Mademoiselle, having pity on her discomfort, suggested a move to the pine woods, where they were to picnic. "Some of you may go to meet Wanda and Herr von Gluck by the 3 o'clock boat," she said. "And now, who will carry the baskets?" They all made for the house to load themselves up, and presently they were struggling across the playing field to the gate which led to the mountain slopes. The middles had taken the food baskets, the seniors carried the big cans of milk, and the juniors bore long loaves of bread, which they would cut up when they began to eat. Everyone was responsible for her own mug, and the chalet was shut up for the day, Louise and Hansie going home for a short while. "We've turned the people out of the green dormy," said Grizel, who was walking with Bet, "and you people are to have your own old beds. Wanda is going into the blue dormy, where she was, Bianca being sent over to La Petite Chalet. We shall be a full house this weekend. It's hard luck Juliet couldn't come, isn't it?" "I am sorry she isn't here," agreed Gisela. "I'm very fond of Juliet. And now, my Grizel, how does it go with you this term? Is all well?" Grizel shooed her head. "I can't exactly say that, Gisela. You'd see that fair, fat child walking with Avendine?" Gisela looked in the direction she was indicating and nodded. "Yes. What's wrong with her, Grizel?" "She's the limit," said Grizel. "Honestly, Gisela, she's hopeless. What do you think of this?" She plunged into her account of Cornelia's last activities. Gisela listened in startled silence. "But what a senseless thing to do!" she exclaimed. "Yes, I was pretty bad in the old days, but I never did a mad thing like that," said Grizel. "And she's so untruthful, too." "Ah, well, that you never were," said Gisela. "You were full of mischief, Grizel, but we all knew that we could rely on your word. Hi there, you people. Don't you want any food?" Mary Burnett hailed them at this moment, and they found that the others had settled on a little clearing and were already laying the cloth and setting out the eatables. They made haste to join them, and presently they were all sitting round and eating as if they hadn't seen food before that day. "It's funny how much more one can eat out of doors than in," sighed Jo, as she began on her 7th sandwich. "Yes, I noticed you generally eat enough for 3 when we are at a picnic," observed Margia. "People who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. That's your 5th anyhow, and Evandine is outdoing all of us." "Well, you aren't a bad 2nd, laughed Miss Durand, who was sitting near enough to hear them. "More milk, Robin?" The robin nodded her head. Her mouth was too full for speech. The mistress attended to her wants, and then turned to see that Cornelia, who was sitting on the other side of her, had all she required. Strictly speaking, Cornelia should not have been there, but it was not in Mademoiselle's heart to deprive her of the activities, and she had told her that the rest of her punishment should be remitted. We do not wish that our old girls should have to see one of our present girls so punished, my child, the old lady had said gently. So we will forgive you now, and you will try to do better, will you not? Cornelia had muttered something which might have been a promise to this effect. Mademoiselle hoped it was, and accepted it as such. So the young lady was out of durance vile, and with the others once more. Her own friends still looked rather askance at her. They were a sinful crowd, but they had never aspired to the things she did, and had they known what was at the back of her mind at the time, they would assuredly have cut her off. After the meal was over, the baskets were repacked. The girls sauntered off in twos and threes to gather flowers, hunt for early wild strawberries, and chatter about school affairs. The three old girls stayed with the staff, talking, and Grizel, Joey, Rosalie, Mary, and Marie Van Agnew prepared to walk down to the boat landing. "Where's Paula?" demanded Joey just before they set off. "Oughtn't she to come too? Wanda's her cousin." "She's over there with Cornelia and Evandine," said Mary, pointing. "Run and bring her, Joey." Joe went off and presently returned with the trio. "Here we don't want the entire crowd," protested Grizel. "You two run off and find the others. Paula may come if she likes, but not you, Evandine, nor you, Cornelia." "Why not?" demanded Cornelia. "I want to see her." "You'll see her when they get here. Now, don't start making a fuss about it. Come along, you people, it's hot. We don't want to hurry if we can help it. Go and join the others, Evandine and Cornelia." It must be admitted that Grizel's tone was rather dictatorial, but she really felt out of patience with them. Cornelia, at any rate, had no right to ask to go. The head girl considered that she had done very well to be let off her punishment as it was. Evandine turned away with a growl. "Guess I want to see Wanda as much as anyone." Then she made off to join Frida and Simone, who were looking for last year's pine cones. Cornelia sat down on a nearby stump, a gloomy frown on her face, and glared after the departing girls. She hated Grizel at that moment. She could have gone off if she liked then, for no one was watching her. But she had got it into her head that Herr von Gluck might be able to tell her more about the caves than Marie knew. "Silly kid," commented Grizel, looking back and seeing her. "Come on, you folk, it's a good way to walk in this heat." They strolled along, glad of the shade and the pines. When they reached the edge of the forest, they would have to cross the open pasture land, and the sun was blazing down. The great limestone crags of the mountains glared white beneath its rays, and the Ternsey was blue as a piece of lapis lazuli. No breath of wind stirred its calm surface, and it was so still that their own voices sounded louder than usual. "Oof, it's hot," panted Mary, who was scarlet with the heat. "If it's like this in May, what will it be like in June?" "Well, June's nearly here," said Rosalie, who still contrived to look cool and fresh. "Next Sunday will be the 1st. Oh, look, isn't that the boat setting off from Seespitz? We'd better hurry a little." "Heaps of time," said Grizel easily. "It's got to go to the Bracau first, and it doesn't hurry itself." Still, they broke into a trot and managed to get to the landing just as the graceful little white steamer neared the moorings. 5 minutes later, they were welcoming Wanda and her fiancé. Herr Hauptmann Friedel von Gluck was a tall, dark young man with a pleasant face and a merry laugh, and it was obvious that he adored his lovely Wanda, who looked more like a fairy-tale princess than ever in her white frock and big shady hat. Jo made up her mind that he was nice, and while Wanda and Grizel went on ahead with Paula and the other two English girls, she and Marie escorted him over the meadow and through the dark pines, chattering away all the time. The newly arrived pair received quite a little ovation when they reached the picnic ground, and when everyone sat down for milk and cakes, while Wanda heard all the school news, and he was presented to various people of whom he had heard. Cornelia, standing with Evandine, was introduced as one of our American girls. This is the other. She was on her best behavior for once, and her best behavior was very charming. She soon introduced the young man to talk of caves, though he really knew little more than Marie, and the rest listened with deep interest. It would be so very exciting if the entrance really could be discovered, said Mary, when he had finished. I think we found it, said Joe quickly. Then she told them what she and Margia had discussed at Marie's wedding. It seems like, she said when she had finished, as you say, the very fact that the villagers fear the spot would help to keep it secret through all these years. If it is so, then it is to you, too, that you will owe it. Herr Professor von der Witt is coming soon to see if he can find them. He is interested in the question, for he is a great geologist, as you may have heard. I do hope he finds the caves, and that they can be used for sightseeing. But how will he manage? I am certain none of the men round here will go near the place, even if they weren't all busy all the time, said Joe eagerly. He is bringing a party with him, said Herr von Gluck. I think he spoke of coming this weekend. We must bring him to see you, if mademoiselle will permit. He bowed to mademoiselle as he spoke. Then you and Fräulein Grisel can show him where your cleft is. That would save him a great deal of work, if it is really the entrance to the caves. I'm sure it is, said Margia. It's the only possible place. Could you show me whereabouts it is from here, Fräulein Grisel? Asked the captain. Grisel got up from the log on which she had been sitting and turned to the north. It's over there, somewhere. Right below here, you know, and along nearly to where the river turns to enter the valley. I can't tell you exactly, but that's the direction. It is a long, narrow cleft. I don't think we'd have noticed it if we hadn't seen that awful old man and the robin. She glanced round to make sure that none of the juniors were anywhere near. But they had gone off on some business of their own, and there were only the seniors and the middles round them. You cut across the grassland and turn round to the left. It's right under the mountain, really. They say, you know, that old lunatic has come back. Herr August told us at Marie's wedding. Only he called him a demon, said Joe. They all think he comes from hell, I believe, and I know they think he was going to carry off the robin to hell. The return of the juniors from their expedition put all the end to the tale, and they all moved off in other directions. But one young person had heard all she wanted, and it would not be Cornelia's fault if she did not get ahead of them in finding the caves. And that'll be one in the eye for Joey, she thought complacently to herself. Her greatest difficulty would be in getting away. She must manage it through the night, if she could. Fortune favored her for once. Matron, who had been looking rather white and poorly, now owned to a headache, which increased so that when they got home she was only fit for bed. You must go at once, said Miss Maynard. As for Cornelia, I'm sure you don't want a tiresome child next door to you tonight. She can go over to La Petite Chalet for the night. I'll tell her to get her things. When Miss Maynard made up her mind to a thing, it was generally done quickly. On this occasion Cornelia found herself bundled off to La Petite Chalet, along with 3 or 4 other middles who had to turn out to make room for the 4 older girls. Her joy when she found that she was given a window cubicle was great. She had managed to secret her electric torch, and she went to bed with unusual serenity. One of her minor grievances against the school lay in the fact that she was not allowed to sit up as long as she chose, and she generally made a fuss about this. Tonight, however, she went off as quietly as the others, and unsuspicious mademoiselle was under the impression that she was tired by the long day in the woods, and took no notice of it, as Matron certainly would have done. Cornelia waited till she heard the last door shut, keeping herself awake by sitting up in bed, and when she thought she had given everyone sufficient length of time to fall asleep, she got up, dressed herself with the utmost quietness, and climbed out of the window on the balcony. From it was an easy matter for her to drop to the ground, and then she set off at her best pace, making for the cleft in the rock, of which the girls had spoken that afternoon, while Frida, who had been disturbed by the sound of her drop, sat up and looked round her wonderingly. However, Frida could not see through the curtains. She decided that it must have been a dream, and lay down again, and was soon fast asleep. Cornelia was not missed till the morning, and by the time she was safely at the cleft and making her way in, undeterred by any fears, though, had she known what was before her, she would have turned tail and never stopped running until she was safely back at school. And we'll find out what happens next Wednesday. Thanks for listening to Miss Retro Reads.